Hi, today we're going to review trigonometry. We're going to review the unit circle, common values to memorize, yes, I said memorize, and the 6 basic trig functions. Here's your unit circle. Yep, got to memorize all those. All the coordinates, all the angles, in radians and degrees, and the 4 quadrants. The good thing is that they're all just repeats of 3 basic numbers. As Jackson 5 says, ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3. I'll show you. So let's look at that first quadrant here. There are 4 major angles. There's the 0, the pi over 2, and then there's pi over here, and 3 pi over 2 down here. Those are the easy ones. 0, radians. What's that ordered pair here? Remember, this is a unit circle. So if it's a unit circle and the origin here is at 0, 0, unit means the radius is 1. So if this is 0, 0, what's that point right there? It's the point 1, 0. You go over 1 and up 0 to get to that point. That one's pretty easy. This one up here, 1 unit again for the radius. So over 0, up 1. This one over here at pi, 1 unit for the radius again. So negative 1, 0. And then down here, 3 pi over 2, zero, negative 1. So those 4 major angles, you got to know. Memorize them. It's cold. You got to know those. Also, there's 3 other angles you need to know. Pi over 6, pi over 4, and pi over 3. Now if you know anything about fractions, the bigger the bottom number is, the smaller the fraction value. So this is the smallest angle, so that's going to have a pi over 6, the highest value in the bottom. This one's pi over 4, that's exactly halfway in between. And this is pi over 3. Now what we're going to do is make all of these into triangles. So we drop a line down from the angle to the x-axis. This one from that value to the x-axis, and from this down to the x-axis. So those make all right triangles. And as you go over and up, you can get the value here. Now this value, we have to think about the 3 numbers. There are only 3 values. Remember I said it's easy as 1, 2, 3. The 3 values we need to know are 1/2, square root of 2 over 2, and square root of 3 over 2. 1, 2, 3. I thought you'd appreciate Michael Jackson singing it instead of me. Alright, so let's start with the pi over 4. Pi over 4 is a is a 45 degree angle here. 90 degrees here, 45 here, so it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Well, what do you know about a 45, 45, 90 triangle? It's isosceles, right? So the distance going across is going to be the same as the distance going up. That radius here is the hypotenuse, that's 1, but these two, the horizontal and the vertical, are the same. And they are square root of 2 over 2, both of them. So that's square root of 2 over 2. The x value is, and the y value is square root of 2 over 2. So that one's pretty easy. Same 2 numbers right there. The other 2, pi over 3 and pi over 6, are very similar. They're both 30, 60, 90 triangles. This one's the 30 degree angle, and that's the 60 degree angle. So in a 30, 60, 90, you've got one short leg and one long leg. Let's focus on that pi over 6 angle here. This is the long leg going horizontal, and that's the short one. Well, look at these 3 values here. Which one's bigger, 1 over 2 or square root of 3 over 2? Now the square root of 3 is bigger than 1. So we know that the square root of 3 over 2 has got to be longer or bigger than 1 over 2. So the square root of 3 over 2 is the long side of our 30, 60, 90 triangle. So this long side here, that's the square root of 3 over 2. So that goes up here as the x value. And the 1/2 must be the short value, because those two values always go together. If it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle, we always have square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2, but the order might just be different. Like in this pi over 3, this is a 60-degree angle here, and the 30 is here, so the short side's the horizontal and the long side's the vertical. So we still have the same two values, square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2, but the short side goes first because that's the horizontal. So 1/2 is shorter than square root of 3 over 2. That goes here. And square root of 3 over 2 is the long side, so that's the vertical distance. So you only got three numbers to remember in these interior angles here. 1/2, square root of 2 over 2, and square root of 3 over 2. The order, the 30, 60, 90 triangle, they both have 1/2 and square root of 3 over 2. You just have to figure out which side's the short side and the long side. And the pi over 4, the 45, 45, 90, is the same two values, square root of 2 over 2. So there's four major angles. That's the 0, the pi over 2, the pi, and the 3 pi over 2. And then there's three little angles inside of here with only three values to remember. Now all other quadrants have the same values, just with different signs. So this one right here, what kind of triangle is that? When we drop that down to the x-axis, remember you always drop it down to the x-axis, that's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So the short side's here, the long side's here. Short side is 1/2, long side is square root of 3 over 2. But since we're going to the left in the x direction, it's going to be negative 1/2. And then the long side is the vertical, that's square root of 3 over 2. Here is our 45, 45, 90 triangle when you drop that straight down. Put that right angle in there too. So that's our 45, 45, 90 triangle. Square root of 2 over 2 for both of them, but one's negative because we're going to the left for our x value, and the y value is positive because we're going up. You can see down here this triangle. Remember, always drop it to the x-axis. This 45, 45, 90 triangle here, square root of 2 over 2 again for both of them, but they're both negative this time because we have been going negative in the x direction and negative in the y direction. I put that negative on here. So these are both negative, negative x and negative y. This one, drop that straight down. We've got the long side as our horizontal, so that's the square root of 3 over 2, and it's negative. Sorry about my messy writing. And then 1/2 going up vertical. All right, same thing over here, same three values, but you just have to decide long side, short side, which one's positive, which one's negative. Always dropping that line to the x-axis to make your triangles. And then I think you know the radians going around. This is pi over 6, so this would be 2 pi over 6, which reduces to pi over 3. 3 pi over 6, which reduces to pi over 2. There's 4 pi over 6, which is 2 pi over 3. So you can just count by pi over 6s if you want. It's 4 pi over 6. This is 5 pi over 6 here. And then 6 pi over 6 gets you to pi. That reduces to pi. 7 pi over 6, 8 pi over 6, 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6, and 12 pi over 6 is 2 pi. That's going on the 30-degree angles and 60-degree angles. And then the 45-degree angles, pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4, and 8 pi over 4. So once you know those, you should know all of the values, the coordinates, and all of the angles. Just focus on that first quadrant and you'll know everything else. So now we'll talk about the trig functions. For every ordered pair, the x value is the cosine and the y value is the sine. So when we have an ordered pair like square root of 3 over 2, oops, let's do square root of 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. That is the ordered pair for pi over 4. So then I know that the sine of pi over 4 is this number, And the cosine of pi over 4 is this number. So what about pi over 3? The ordered pair for pi over 3, let's go down here and look at it. The ordered pair for pi over 3, since it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the short side's the 1/2 and the long side is the square root of 3 over 2. So the 1/2 goes first and the square root of 3 over 2 goes second. Well, cosine's always the first. So cosine of pi over 3 is got to be 1/2. It's just the x value. Cosine's always the x value. And I remember it because it's in alphabetical order. XY is in alphabetical order, and cosine sine is in alphabetical order. Square root of 3 over 2 is the second one, so that must be the sine. So sine of pi over 3 is square root of 3 over 2. So once you know all the ordered pairs from the previous screen, you know all the trig functions. Because remember, every trig function can be broken down into sine or cosine. Like tangent is sine over cosine. So if we want to find tangent of pi over 3, all we need is our little triangle. We know sine is square root of 3 over 2. Sine goes on top, sine over cosine. And cosine was 1/2. And then how do you divide a fraction by a fraction? You multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to go square root of 3 over 2 times the reciprocal of 1/2, which is 2 over 1. Cross multiply, multiply straight across or cross cancel, and your answer is square root of 3. So tangent of pi over 3 is square root of 3. So when I say you have to memorize all of these, I don't really mean memorize them. I mean memorize all these ordered pairs, and then you can figure out the trig functions from that based on sine and cosine. So all you have to memorize is the sine and cosine from these coordinates, and then you can figure out everything else. Like cotangent is cosine over sine. So I'm just going to take the cosine, which is 1/2, and then divide it by the sine, which is square root of 3 over 2. And again, multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to have 1/2 times 2 over square root of 3. And you can cancel and leave, that's 1 over square root of 3. Again, sorry, my handwriting is so messy. I'm writing with a mouse here. Now that's not rationalized, which means it has a square root in the denominator. So if you want, you can multiply by the square root of 3 over 3 on top and bottom to get rid of the square root in the denominator. On the AP test, you don't have to do that. You can leave your answer as 1 over square root of 3. But in the back of our book, they might have it as square root of 3 over 3, and if you get this, you might be confused. So that's how they get from 1 over square root of 3 to square root of 3 over 3, because square root of 3 times square root of 3 is square root of 9, and that is just 3. Cosecant is 1 over sine, so you're going to do 1 over square root of 3 over 2. 1 over square root of 3 over 2 is just 2 over the square root of 3. It's the reciprocal. Sorry about the really bad handwriting here. And again, you could rationalize that if you want to. And finally, secant is 1 over cosine, so 1 over 1/2, because cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2. Reciprocal of that is just 2. So from any trig function, or from any angle, pi over 3, pi over 4, pi over 6, you should be able to figure out all of these 6 trig functions. So that's it in a nutshell. That's the big stuff you need to know, have to know. You have to know it cold for the AP test. Good luck.